Hey there, moguls. It's me, Marshall Sylver, your personal millionaire maker. Getting very excited about my brand new show, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. I'm going to broadcast live to you. In the first hour of the broadcast, I'm going to give you content, information for better sex, more money, emotional, mental, physical, and even spiritual power. I'll also invite some of my cool multi-millionaire and billionaire friends onto the show to give you more direction, more advice, more strategies and gambits for having it all. The second hour is what I'm most excited about. It's when I get a chance to chat with you. Yes, you. Where you can call in, talk to me, ask me questions. And if you say the secret word of the day, you could win $5,000 cash. At the very least, if you're the most interesting call of the day, you could also win 10 ounces of freshly minted Marshall Sylver 999 Fine Silver. All of that and more. Brand new Mercedes-Benz sedan or SUV up for grabs. My personal Rolls-Royce Phantom up for grabs. All the knowledge to get everything you want and so much more. All you got to do is log in to the show to get information about its release coming up. 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, coming to you live from the bunker right here at Studio Money. I'm Marshall Sylver, your personal millionaire maker.
Let me bring in our hypnotist, Marshall Sylver.
It's Marshall Sylver, ladies and gentlemen, the world's fastest hypnotist.
Welcome home. How was your weekend? You can see my weekend was really relaxing. Yeah, I got a little bit of, I was going to say 6 o'clock shadow, but this is probably like a December shadow or a May shadow. It's a lot of shadow. At any rate, glad to be with you. I had a phenomenal weekend. You know, I'm very grateful for the country that I live in. I'm very grateful for the U.S. And while as you can tell, if you listen to me at all, I'm not a fan of our government currently. I am a massive fan of the principles in which this country was founded and what it was founded for. And I especially appreciate our military, both retired and active, and also obviously those that sacrifice their lives, as well as any of the first responders, police, fire, paramedics, and so forth. And I just, again and again on this show, will say they don't get the appreciation they deserve. And while there are bad eggs in any profession, the majority of the people that I know in those professions are really, 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 really good eggs. So I salute those people. We had a phenomenal Memorial Day, very low key, laid back, enjoyed watching the water. And I've got some gifts coming your way. I'll tell you more about it during this show. Erica and I were playing Scrabble over the weekend. If you follow me on social media, my beautiful bride played a really good word. The only challenge was one of the tiles was a wild tile, a blank tile that's a wild tile in Scrabble. And the challenge was I already had both of the blank tiles in my rack. So it wasn't possible for her to have another blank. And my wife, doing what she always does, just taking control of her world and making it bend to her reality, had flipped over one of her tiles accidentally, and it wasn't a blank, it was an R, which made the word meaningless, which made the whole thing hilariously funny. But my point in all of this is you get a choice today and every day to view the world the way that you want to view the world, to play by your rules, and to live life fully, and then once again seek forgiveness rather than permission. I think it's a powerful, powerful, powerful strategy. Someone who has definitely lived their lives on their terms, taken the bull by the horns, as any good matador would, is my great personal friend, Cesar Espino. Senor Espino was born in Mexico City during a time when the country had one of the largest foreign debts and was going through a massive financial crisis. Not only was he born into a poor family, his family was also a single parent home, just his mom. He never met his biological father. And as a kid, Caesar lived in a room, or what he called his house, that was about 200 square feet in Mexico. This place had no running water, which I can relate to. What I can't relate to, it also had no floor. He lived and slept directly on top of dirt. He had no insulation, and the building itself was just made up of sheet metal and plywood. Today, Caesar's passion is to empower, educate, inspire, and aspire many through his experience and life lessons. Caesar's has an MBA. He's held several positions in corporate America. He lives in Los Angeles, California. But here's the biggest thing. Here's the thing we want to talk about on today's show. He's the best-selling international author. He's a real estate investor, mind coach, has a podcasting show of his own called You Can Overcome Anything. And he's also a real estate coach. I utilize him as a coach in the things that we do because his expertise and ability in talking directly to people and their subconscious mind in an empathetic fashion, understanding what they're going through, is unparalleled. He's amazing. His objective is to empower, motivate, and inspire others to reach their full potential too. Cesar's been creating opportunities for people to have a chance at life, regardless of their background or their current situation. Please, a nice, big Marshall Sylver Live welcome to Cesar Espino. Welcome home, Cesar.
Hey, Marshall. How are you? Thank you for having me here.
You are very welcome. It is always awesome to see you. We've known each other for a while now. What year did we meet?
It was back in end of 2017. November 2017 is when I first saw you at the LA Convention Center.
Very cool. And a lot's gone. I can't believe it's only been 7 years because I feel like we've known each other for a lifetime.
I believe the same thing. Yeah, I definitely can relate that. I feel like it was. I was looking back and yeah, it's only been 7, yet it feels a lifetime for sure.
I would have thought that it was at least 10 years.
Yeah.
At least I thought, or longer actually, and I think that's a sign of good friends. I think that certain souls and spirits are meant to be intertwined and spend a lifetime together, and you can tell when a relationship is solid and sound and supposed to be there forever when that relationship goes through thick and thin. So first, let give some people a little bit of background about you, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, for sure. And you kind of already mentioned that, again, I was born in Mexico City, and there was a lot of different things that I can relate to. And even looking back right now, what I've done right now, I think it all came from where I came from, right? And as you mentioned, I was only born to, in a household with one parent, my mom. And one of the things that I kind of go back and relate to is that, a lot of people have to take that leap of faith. And a lot of people are thinking, what do I need to do to better my life, better the life of the people that I love, right? Whether I'm my kids or my significant other. In this case, my mom decided to take her leap of faith when I was just about, I had just turned 4, 3 months after I turned 4. And she decided to also leave Mexico, leave me behind with my older brother and my mom, my grandmother, who I call my mom, my grandmother, so that she can give us a better life. And to me, that was a turning point, one of my turning points at an early age, because as it was, we were already poor. We didn't have a lot of things that we can show for. And I had to start working at an early age. Back in Mexico, I would be working in at the bus. I would be working at a SWAT meet, trying to sell whatever we can sell. And it got to a point where that wasn't good enough, that my grandmother decided to buy us a sewing machine so that we can start sewing clothing and make ends meet doing that. And that went on for multiple years. And I always tell people, like, for Halloween, if you're looking for a costume, just let me know. I can probably make you a nice costume just because I know how to sew on a sewing machine. And nevertheless,
maybe that's one of the ways we're connected, because I too grew up sewing on a sewing machine.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. I didn't know. I know.
Yeah, I didn't know a lot of stuff about you. I didn't know that you had an MBA. I didn't know all this. So yeah, I grew up sewing on the sewing machine because I loved magic. And so I would sew props together. I would make up props, but I would also make some of my own costumes. And so, yeah, I grew up sewing, and it's not something I talk about a lot yet. When my cooking fails me, I bring out the silk scarves and the handmade handbags.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, so definitely I did that, and then at the age of 10 is when I migrated to the States, and that was a whole different thing. And looking back, there's something that you said to when I first met you that kind of resonated and said, you know what, this really applied to me back then when I was 10. And what I mean by that is that when I came here, again, not knowing the language, not knowing anybody, different culture, different ethnicities, all different types of people, I really felt out of place. I felt like I didn't belong here. And it got to a point where I wanted to go back to Mexico. And it's interesting because sometimes we are so comfortable being in a place that we are afraid to be uncomfortable. In my case, back then, I was so comfortable being poor. I was comfortable being in a country that really didn't have no future. And I was afraid. And
Is it that you were comfortable, or is it that you just didn't know better?
you know what? Definitely that too. I didn't know better because I was barely exposed to this, right? Except I was comfortable knowing what I knew. I was comfortable. That was my life. I was good with that, and I
Well,
wanted to go back.
I think it's deeper than that, and I think it's an important lesson for everybody
Hmm.
that it's not that you were comfortable living in, a third world country, challenging, in challenging circumstances. When people go on mission
Yep.
from the United States down to Mexico, like the Tijuana, and they might go to work in the dump there, the landfill, where people are actually living. I know because I was a part of a mission that went down and did some work. We're told don't tell people how poor they are because they don't know.
That's a good point. Yes. Yeah.
Well, and what's interesting to me about that, and you're the classic example of somebody who was able to shake off that really bad hypnosis and go beyond it. But again, I kind of think that the same thing goes on a broader level, even in the United States, where people are made to believe becoming a millionaire or having an ideal relationship or all these things about a quality life are hard. Not knowing, no, they're not hard. They're just different.
Mm,
And I think that's the biggest challenge for people is it's not hard to have a great relationship. It's you got to have a different approach in selecting your mate though. It's
right.
not hard to make money. You got to stop and say, okay, how do I give value in a way that's meaningful to other people? And that is when you and I met, you were working your butt off. And frankly,
Hmm.
and again, people can say whatever they want to say about anybody they want to say anything. I'm not a racist on any level. I
Right.
make observations though. And one of the observations I have of my Mexican friends is overall the culture is culturally a group of extremely hardworking people
Hmm.
and people that have to work very, very hard for their existence. And so when they come to the States, I see it everywhere. Yeah. Where do you see the people working the hardest? People that are of the Mexican culture. So it's not a surprise to me that you see massive success stories in people that are willing to work that hard when they understand the dynamic
Right.
of entrepreneurship and actually making money. So
Yeah.
forgive me for interrupting.
Oh,
Again,
that's
you're
good.
just a classic example. So you're in Mexico, you don't realize how bad it is. What was the pivot that made you start realizing, oh, there could be more? I could actually have a floor to sleep
Yeah.
on instead of dirt.
I think it was one thing you mentioned, and again, I go that's the point that I was trying to tell you that for me, when I look back, you said something in one of when I first went to Turning Point, right? It said you just have something, you just have to surrender, right? It said you gotta surrender to understand, you gotta surrender to be able to see things from a different perspective, right? Not to give up, except to be able to see it from a different perspective. And I think that's exactly what went on in my mind at that point. Is you know what I was given this opportunity to be in this great nation in this great country that I can make something out of it, then why don't I go after and do that? And so with that, I literally within 2 years, I learned the language. I was a straight A student. I was involved with a lot of different things, trying to really make this my own. I wanted to be able to fit in. I wanted to be able to be recognized that, you know what, I can make it, even though this is not my home country. I'm gonna make it my home country, right? And part of that was being able to have that change in that mindset, or be able to see things in a different perspective. uh, when I did my very first book, one of the things that I talk about in my very first book is I don't understand the concept, and to this day I don't get it. Maybe it's just me. I don't understand the concept when people from other countries come to this great nation and they throw away the opportunity. They either get involved with gangs, they get involved with things that are not serving them, and I just don't get that. And I say that because growing up, I was tempted multiple times to be part of gangs, to do drugs, to do all these different things, and I chose a different path, the path of success in my mind, and I didn't want to throw that away. I didn't want to throw away that opportunity that was given to me at the age of 10. And so I think part of it is really being able to see things from the different perspective. And one of the things that you mentioned is I am already a multimillionaire whose money has not yet been deposited into my bank account. And I realized that down the line that even though I was born into a very poor family and not having a lot of different things, deep down, I feel like I have a different purpose. Deep down, I feel like I am the person that I am right now. And there's still more things that I got to do in my life. Yet this is exactly what I needed to be. And is believing that.
And I think, again, it's self-identity. You and I, when we met, you were going through some really hard times. You had a challenging relationship. You had a girlfriend that wasn't right for you. And nothing is harder to me than being in a relationship with somebody that's working against you. Right. And again, having been there repeatedly in my life, I know what that feels like. And now, though, in the relationship that I have with Erica, it's just easy. The other thing was your head has the same condition that mine does. It didn't allow itself to grow thick, full head of hair like some people can. And when I met you, I told you, just shave it off.
Yeah.
Because you take charge of what you can take charge of. You let go of what you cannot take charge of, and you shaved it. And the first day I saw you was at an event up in LA after you'd shaved your head. And I swear you were walking differently. You went from, kind of slithering across the room, frankly, to sauntering and strutting around. And I think that, there's ways for us to strut in our lives and know our value. Yeah. I think we are in the most magical of times. I think we're about to see what a lot of good, healthy, kind human beings are going to call miracles happening in our world, because I think revelation is happening right now. But I also think that many people will feel more pain than they've ever felt ever. You have a book series, and you're very modest, by the way, in the bio that I read. It doesn't mention the fact that you have published how many books?
Right now, I'm
authored and co-authored how many books?
Yeah, I'm at 21 books. Yes.
21 books. Holy cow. And you help a lot of other people to also become published authors.
Yes.
What is the name of the book series that you've put out?
It's called You Can Overcome Anything.
You Can Overcome Anything. And so I've been in the book. I've committed a couple chapters to the book.
Correct. Twice.
And you've had how many authors inside of those books?
I would say at this point, anywhere over 100 people.
Talk to me about what a book does for somebody's career and why everybody should write a book.
Yeah, definitely. So at this point, I've been able to assist people become published authors anywhere from Canada to Australia to Mexico and the US. And one of the biggest things that people can get or take away from that is instant credibility. And I do believe that anyone, especially if you're in the public eye, or you're a coach, or you're doing some sort of public service to other people, you got to be able to have something that you can showcase as a business card, right? I feel like this is like a business card in steroids that you can really give to anybody, and then with that you can have more networking connections. So a couple of different things that is going to do for you. Number one is definitely going to give you that instant credibility. Number two, it's going to definitely put you, in my opinion, a little bit above the competition. And what I mean by that is you're an expert in whatever field. Even if your book is a story of you, or a book is a kid's book, or a book is, how to wholesale real estate, whatever that might be, is going to position you in a different place than your competition. And then the last thing that I think is going to do for you is going to really create that self-accomplishment. I believe that people, as anything, when you bought your first house, when you got your first car, whatever that might have been, it brought this sense of accomplishment that wanted you to go out and get more out of life. And it's funny because a lot of people that have gone through the book that were afraid of writing, and when they went through the process and worked with me on that, they said, you know what, doing this really helped me uh, become more in tune with myself, have this kind of self-healing, and it really took some weight off my shoulders. And so it really creates a lot of different elements within people's lives. And part of it too is also a lead magnet. It helps you connect with more people. I know when I first did my first book, that's how I got started with the second. And before I knew it, I was being in multiple books and on my own series too. And I'm getting podcast interview. I'm getting people that want to talk to me because of my book. So it definitely is going to open up the doors for whatever you have going on in your life.
What do you say to somebody who is terrified and says, I just don't know how to write a book?
Yeah, so you know what? That's actually what a lot of people go through. I've met people that say, "Hey, I have this book idea. It's been 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. I just cannot get it out." And just like anything in life, and I've learned this again late in life, is you need to one. I believe you need to find somebody that can help you, that has done the work, that can kind of walk you through it without you struggling a whole lot through the process, right? So definitely finding somebody that can help you, a mentor. We have mentors in many different aspects in our lives. I think that's huge. And so if you cannot get that, it is really understanding what is the outcome. I can give you ideas of what the outcome should be, but what is the outcome for you? What do you want that book to do? Is it self-accomplishment? Do you want to create more networking connections? Are you just trying to get something because you're trying to make a name off of you? Let's start with the idea of why you want to create that book. And then after that, we can start working in terms of what is the storyline? How is the book going to look like? Where do we want to publish the book? And so on and so forth.
And when somebody decides they want to write a book with you, what are they responsible for? What do you handle?
Yeah, all they gotta do is really come up with the story itself, and then I do everything else. And what I mean by that, I'll do the editing of the book, sentence structure. I work with my team to make sure that we get the sentence structure. We review it, critique the entire book from beginning to end. We also do the cover design. And so based on the idea of the book, what kind of colors you want, what is the shape or form of what you want to see, we'll do the book cover design, and then I'll make sure that I get the book formatted to be published both in a paperback, ebook, and a hardcover. And then I'll also get people into a couple of podcasts so they can get a little bit more of that press release and be able to be known for what they're doing, right? So all they really got to do is just write the book, and then I work on everything else, establishing their authority page for their book, and then getting that all the way to the finish line.
What do you love?
I got to tell you, that's actually a very good question. And I ask myself this very often. And to me, is I love my life right now. And what I mean by that is that I love the fact that I'm here with you. I love the fact that I'm able to wake up and have an opportunity to see the day, right? There's something that I see a lot, and I was I made a redo on this, and it says TGIF, thank God it's Friday, right? And I said, what about TGIL, thank God I'm alive, right? And we got to be able to see that we're alive every day, right? So I love what I've been able to make, the connections, the friendships, and to me is, when I look at that, I think that's probably 10 times better and bigger for me than anything else that I had in my life, is being able to create that. And so I love my life. I love where I am. I love the people that I have around me that support me and that believe in me and that keep edifying me. And I want to continue to do that.
Talk to me a bit about real estate investing. Obviously, you've been an investor for quite a while.
Yes.
How's the market right now? What do you think?
You know, I think it's good. And why I say that is it really comes down to the very first thing is, what kind of strategy do you have? Are you, what are you trying to do, right? If you want to try to flip a property, that it depends on the market, that might be a bit challenging, because obviously, as you know, when you're flipping a property, if you're looking in the California or in the LA area, San Diego area, you're probably going to be putting about $120,000 to $140,000 to remodel a property. And because the interest rates are a little bit high, your house might sit in the market for quite some time after you flip it for somebody to come in and be able to actually buy that house. And so I believe that whether the market is high or low, for the end buyer, for an investor, you can always make something happen as long as you know the type of strategy that you want to get into, whether it's wholesale, buying fix or flip, or if you want to actually get into short-term rentals or Airbnb. Right now, I teamed up with Aaron Schleck, as you know him, and we're doing a lot of wholesaling, and we're also doing a lot of Airbnbs. We're getting to the short-term rental or lease to own options, right? Because again, a lot of people, that makes sense. If you don't have the credibility to be able to go get a traditional loan, a lease to own will be good. And we have, as an investor, we have that property that we can pass it on to somebody that while they're building their credit or they're working on getting that, we can actually put them into their forever home.
What do you think is going to happen? The lockdowns and all the scamdemic and all that stuff that happened obviously put a lot of people in very precarious circumstances regarding their mortgages. Many people deferred their mortgage payments because they had no income coming in, and then the bank said, "Yeah, we'll put that back on the backside of your loan." But even if they did that, the challenge is that they still had other living expenses, food and water, whatever else they needed, that didn't get deferred, that they also still had to pay for with no income coming in. So by the time all the lockdowns and everything was released, most people were in a worse financial circumstance and are reeling to recover. What do you think is going on as far as trends are concerned? Are a lot of people going to lose their homes? Are they going to downsize to rentals? Are homeowners or even renters that were renting houses going to move into apartments? What do you think is going on in the current market?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe that we're gonna be seeing a lot of that right now. We might be seeing a lot of foreclosures coming up soon because of that same principle, right? I mean, right now the interest rates are pretty high. Um, People might say, "Hey, well, the government or this pandemic, they were trying to help us out by deferring payments and doing all these different things." And in reality, they were hurting people. If you look at, I just came from Alaska recently, and I saw a lot of homeless people. I was really bowled by seeing how many people were homeless. If you go to downtown LA, if you go to San Diego, even now, like there's so many people that are out of homes because of this pandemic, in my opinion. And so I believe that we're going to be seeing a lot of that coming up in the next couple of months, for sure. Definitely, it's an opportunity for investors to be able to get properties, pennies on the dollar, or get foreclosed properties. It is definitely a challenging time for people that are going through that, because I do believe people are going to end up losing that. So I believe there's going to be more demand for apartments and that kind of stuff. And even in my neighborhood, I'm seeing a lot more developers building apartments because people cannot afford, houses. My younger brother's been trying to get a house for almost 2 years, and things they're asking you and all of the requirements, it's just a lot. They're making it harder for people to get into a home.
I would agree, which would mean that a substantial number of people are going to start moving toward apartments, just renting whatever they can so they have a place to live. And my belief is that real estate is definitely in a good place because it's moving, but I think people need to pay attention to where it's moving to. And
Right.
my belief is that the majority of it's going to move to multifamily, lease to own. I think is
Yes.
going to be a really popular thing for a little while here, and people are able to come up with any kind of a down payment, even if they can't qualify for a bank loan, could potentially get themselves into a piece of property like that. I wanted to chat with you in the
Mhm.
second part of our show about a topic you and I have never talked about, and if you don't want to answer these kinds of questions, don't answer them if you're
Sure.
uncomfortable in any way. But I feel you and I have a good enough relationship that we
Yep.
could have a real conversation. And maybe you or me, or maybe somebody listening or watching the show could actually benefit from this kind of conversation. Uh, how old were you when you came to the US?
I was 10,
10. And you're how old now?
44.
So you've been here 34 years. You're here in the US. You're at the least Mexican American, at the most American,
Yep.
at the other most Mexican. You're all the above. So my question to you is, I don't know what it feels like to be anything other than a white guy,
Mhm.
but I also know I experience prejudice. I experience racism because I'm a white guy. And,
Yep.
and although people don't believe that that's real, it's real. So my question to you is, how does it feel to be a Mexican living in the U.S. right now? With all that's going on, with everybody taking a look at the border, um, in general, and then I want to find out more specifically what you think, and I want to find out, because again, we've got a lot of people coming over the border that aren't from Mexico. In fact, the majority now isn't even
Yeah.
from Mexico.
Right.
But how does it feel, first and foremost, to be a Mexican American in the U.S.?
Yeah. So definitely right now, I can tell you that I'm proud to be here, and it feels good. While I still see some prejudice and maybe discrimination here and there, it kind of goes back to what you mentioned earlier. In my opinion, I don't really pay attention to that. I try to really control what I can control, which is my own lane, right? And so I do know that when I first got here, I did go through a lot of that. There was a lot of bullying just because I couldn't understand the language, and there were so many different people and different diversity. So being here at the age of 10, I did go through a lot of challenges just because I was, an outsider. Right now, I don't see that. I don't see myself as an outsider. I do feel like I fit in, and I feel like, in my opinion, I'm in the right place, right? When it comes down to the different people that are coming to this, I have a lot of opinions on that, and I normally don't talk about this, but I'm definitely gonna say this because I see people coming from other countries, and they're coming here illegally, right? And obviously, I came here illegally too at the age of 10. Yet, I goes back to what I mentioned earlier. I do not get it. I don't understand when people come here. If you're gonna make that trip, you're gonna make that sacrifice. One, obviously, I would say try to get here the legal way. That's the first thing. The second thing is, if for whatever reason you got here, why would you come here and trash this country? Why would you come here and uh, pretend like you're living back home and throwing parties and doing all these different things that are hurting our country? I see what's going on in New York with a lot of Venezuelans coming in, and New York is not the same since they came here. I just recently saw something that happened in Chicago last week, I think, with some, again, people that were just being loud. I don't understand why people do that. To me, it's like, send them back, like literally send them back. Two reasons why. Number one, they're not only damaging our country. Number two, they're putting a bad name to us Hispanics, because not everybody is a crook, not everybody's a criminal, not everybody's that, except we get profile that there's a Mexican guy or there's a Hispanic guy, and because these people did that, or they robbed this because there was a lot of robberies, they were robbing, they were hitting. I think there was a Venezuela that killed a girl in Utah, I don't know what country, what state. What happens is now we get profile, and to me that's a big problem, because again, I don't relate to that. I would never hurt anybody, yet because I'm Hispanic, they feel like I'm like them. And so to me, it's like, send them back. I feel like our administration, how they're allowing all of this to take place, is unheard of. They need to put a stop to it. They need to do something about it. And I don't know why they're not doing that. I don't know why they're not doing that.
Maybe the chaos is their plan.
It could be. It could be.
Yes. I know that, me as a white guy with a shaved head, there are certain subconscious programs that people are going to fire off, KKK or skinhead or something like that.
Yeah.
And so I know that I have to overcompensate. But something else that I stop when if I see racism, or I see a white person mistreating somebody else because of the color of their skin or any of their views, or if I see somebody like me abusing somebody else, I have a scar on the back of my head. I've been beat up twice in my life, and both times I've been beat up pretty severely were protecting other people that I didn't think could protect themselves. And so I said, okay, nobody else is jumping in, I need to. I know I don't tolerate that. And I often wonder how again, someone like you who is Hispanic, who is Latino and Mexican, I often wonder, how does someone like you or a black person see when they see people like you just said of our group? If I see white shaved headed guys misbehaving, yeah, I think it reflects on me, and I think people start thinking every white guy with a shaved head's an a-hole.
Mm.
And so for me, that's where I think this stuff gets resolved. I believe that without a doubt, we've got, because it's not what it used to be coming across the border
Right.
anymore. It is a flood. And it's not even like normal times when you and I were
Mhm.
younger, where some people would come across and we'd be able to deal with it and track it and work it out and get people in line. It's just flat out, it's an invasion at this point. There's just so many people that know there's nothing that's going to happen. We've got all sorts of criminal elements coming across. And I think that that's the biggest challenge is I think that this massive criminal element coming across the southern border is making it harder for legitimate law-abiding people that desire to love America. Because I agree with that. I don't care if you're an immigrant. I don't care if you're here legally, illegally. I don't care if you were born in Washington, D.C. If you don't like this country so much that you have to continuously speak out against it, do everyone a favor, especially yourself, and move.
Right.
Go somewhere where it's better. And if it's not better, don't complain about it. Do something to make it better that's not complaining, that's actually proactive. And that's the thing for me right now. I was contemplating yesterday. I just wonder if all the people that have died to protect what the United States stand for knew what was going on right now. I wonder how many of them would second guess their choice to die for this country.
Agreed.
And so, again, for me, that's the question that I keep having is if I was a black man and I saw that black on black crime was at what it is and black on white crime was at what it is, I wouldn't get angry at the government first. I'd say, okay, what's going on in my community?
Yeah.
What's happening, here in my community, and how do I do this? Plenty of examples of people with, white guys with shaved heads that are kind. Plenty of examples
Yeah.
of obviously hardworking, successful Black, Mexican, Asian, Indian, you name it. So my point is, it's got nothing to do with gender or height or skin color or place of birth. It's got everything to do with individuals. So that's the challenge, is we need to start judging individuals. But with the pouring of massive illegal immigration in the country, it's like, which fox do we shoot in the hen house first?
Yeah.
How do we single out the ones that are actually causing damage versus, somebody that is looking for an option to get here? I have plenty of friends, and I'm sure you do too, that have immigrated legally, and it is a pain in the butt. So maybe one of the things they could at the very least do is stop the illegal immigration. And if they're going to let them in illegally anyway, make legal immigration a little bit easier so that we at least know who's here.
Yeah. Two things that you mentioned that I think is critical. Number one is going back to the scandemic, right? There was this movement, and again, it is what it is. There's this movement, Black Lives Matter, right? And I did a video when they were talking about that. And while I agree with that, how about we start seeing things from a different perspective? And it's not just Black Lives Matter, it's white lives and Asian and brown and all these different colors. What about all lives matter? That should have been the movement, in my opinion, is being able to account for every person, regardless of their background, that they are all important. That's the first thing that I think we need to focus on, is not just in one area or one group of people. It's really all people. The second thing is, I agree with you. I mean, if the government has to do a better job on right now, they're not doing this, and they got to do a better job on filtering people that are coming in. Some of the people that are coming in right now, they feel entitlement. They feel like, I gotta, as soon as I step in here, I have to have a place to live. I have to have nice food. I have to have a job, all these different things. And when they do get it, because they're working as a constructor, or they're staying at I think one of the best hotels in New York, but they don't like it. They want their own room or their own place. They get mad, and I'm thinking to myself, wait, I got here, but I didn't ask for any of that stuff. I actually worked my ass off to be where I am, And so why are you going to come in here and feel entitled that we're just going to give you everything? Like, you got to work for, you got to sacrifice and you got to work to get to the next level. Yet these people are coming with the mindset that I'm going to come in here and the US government is going to take care of me and I don't have to do anything. And I can trash the place and I can do all these things. And I just don't agree with that. We have to do a better job in controlling our borders. We have to do a better job in filtering who's coming in. Do they have a criminal record? Like, I don't know why we're not doing that. We need to do a better job on that. And again, and we also have to remember that it's all lives matter, not just one group of people.
100% agree. You know, I have many of my black friends that have acknowledged that BLM wasn't set up for black people. It was set up for the people in the BLM. But there's so many organizations that are like that are just self-serving. Most major unions, labor unions, come to mind. That you know, some certainly are good, but the majority of them are set up to make sure the labor union gets paid, and not as much for the people. Do you think that there's anything that people can do to get themselves unstuck? That you know, if you're working with somebody and you just feel like they're stuck, kind of like you were when we met.
Yeah.
What did you do, and how do you coach people to help them understand how to, you know, get unstuck?
Yeah. I think the first thing is really find somebody like you. I mean, and that's exactly what the place that I was, right? I was trying to, I knew I didn't have all the answers, and I knew that I needed some help. I needed something that was going to compensate for that missing link. And for me, it was being able to, one, I found you. And when I found you, I figured out that there were so many different things that I needed to work on myself, right? And so I think to really to get unstuck is, one, you have to acknowledge, one, that there's something, there's a challenge, right? That's the first thing you need to do. The second thing is we have to, once we acknowledge that there's a challenge and we know what that challenge is, the second thing is we got to start thinking, what can I do to improve and become better and really manage this challenge? And then the last thing we have to do is we have to take action. You know, you always talk about this, we have to take action. And so once we can do that, and taking action might mean, hey, let me go to a turning point with Marshall Sylver. Let me work with Cesar on something, right? Is also being able to identify what is that taking action? What does that mean? Do I need to make more calls? Do I need to get a mentor? Do I need to do X, Y, and Z? And then go out and do it, right? I like what you talk about in your events, and you said we got to be able to start with the end in mind. Once we understand what is the end in mind, so we have a challenge, we know where we want to be, work yourself backwards, right? And then start creating smaller tasks to be able to get that to that end game. When we start looking at things from just a holistic point of view, that's where I think people get stuck, because they say, wow, this is too much for me to take on. I don't know how to write this book. This book is I don't know how to publish. I don't know what is an ISBN, right? Well, what about if you start working through it and just understand that first, I want to publish a book. What are the steps? What do I need to do? And what kind of action do I need to take? And so it really comes down to those three things, in my opinion.
Where do you go from here? What are your aspirations? What's the big plan? What are you working on?
Yeah, so definitely this year, definitely I'm working on creating a bigger real estate portfolio. I really want to focus on the three things that I have going on right now, which is building my real estate portfolio. The second thing is I want to continue to help people through book publishing, and I want to be able to do that for a lot more people. And so I want to really take that to the next level. And then I want to continue to do what I do, as I do with you in your events, do that coaching, whether it's at events or do coaching with individual people. I believe that for me, taking those three things kind of work together in many different ways. And I want to just take that to the next level. And that's the game plan that I have for this year.
Any last thing you want to say to our audience before we wrap up for the day?
Yeah, for sure. The last thing I would say is it's a relationship advice about your life. And the best relationship advice I can give you is make sure that you don't cheat on your future with your past. Because oftentimes we get stuck with our past and we feel like that's a life sentence, right? When in reality, our past is just a lessons to be learned. And when we are stuck in our past, we do not focus on today for our tomorrow. So make sure you don't cheat on your future with your past.
How do people get a hold of you? Where do they follow you on social media?
Yeah, they can go to my name as it is on display, Cesar R. Espino. I'm pretty much on every single social media, or my website is www.cesarrespino.com.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much for being on the show. You're amazing.
Thank you. Love you, Marshall.
I love you too, brother. You take care.
Bye-bye.
Life is good. It's good to have great friends, and I trust that you have great friends. You have at least one in me. Thanks so much for hanging out. We are back. We'll be back tomorrow. Hey, by the way, I want to share with you, we've got a turning point coming up, and I'll show you the video before we wrap up for the day. We got a turning point coming up next in July, so about next month, wrapping up May right now. So in July, we got a turning point. And if you are a part of my inner circle and you're watching this right now, we have a special bonus that we're about to give for that turning point. And here's the deal. We've got a car to give away. If you're part of the inner circle, you understand that brand new Mercedes-Benz promotion is a real deal. If you don't, contact the office to find out more details. Here's the other special thing. If you are inner circle and you're inviting some guests, and you invite at least 5 guests who are at least 21 years old and stay for the entire time, and you bring the most people, most guests, whether they buy anything or not, of 5 or more, if you bring the most people, I'll pay you $10,000 cash on top of any commissions you get for referring people to the turning point. So big turning point coming up in July. To take a look at what the event is, check out this video.
Turning point. A total change in direction for the better.
Who here is ready for a turning point? You absolutely have to have one. Put them high.
The 2-day Turning Point seminar is different than any other program in that it does more than just teach you the skills for your relationships, wealth, and power. It also programs you on a subconscious level to put those skills into immediate use.
This weekend is about empowerment. This weekend is about you understanding how to take charge of your own life.
You will learn total control of your thoughts and emotions. How to use PND, or psychoneural duplication, to take on the thoughts and actions of others to produce similar results. Whether it's losing weight, changing habits, being a millionaire.
When you think what a millionaire thinks and you do what a millionaire does, you'll produce similar results.
You will learn to program these powerful tools at a subconscious level for immediate and lasting results.
Your conscious mind is what's called your critical factor. It's the mind you're using right now to determine whether the information I'm giving to you will work for you or not. Your subconscious mind, on the other hand, is merely a computer. It's non-critical. It doesn't even have the ability to make judgment. So all trance, hypnosis, reprogramming is setting aside the critical factor of your conscious mind and non-critically accepting suggestions.
And empowering.
To make a fear vanish, you must experience it fully.
As it helps you create your life exactly the way you want it. Bring your family closer. Find the love of your life. Create strategies for wealth. Learn irresistible influence and so much more. Because of the intimate nature of this course, seats are very limited. Register now before your life passes you by and there are no more turning points for you. Tens of thousands of people have learned this information and are using it daily.
You don't get angry if you get fired from your job and you know that within 2 years you will be a multi-millionaire.
It's your time.
There's a way for you to win this game that is different than how you're doing it, and it works.
It's your life.
When you learn how to do that, you become more powerful, and power is for use.
It's your turning point.
Thanks so much for being with us today. Make it an awesome day. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. live. Hey there, moguls. It's me, Marshall Sylver, your personal millionaire maker. Getting very excited about my brand new show coming up 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. I'm going to broadcast live to you. I'm going to give you content, information, emotional, mental, physical, and even spiritual power. I'll also invite some of my cool multi-millionaire and billionaire friends onto the show to give you more direction, more advice for having it all. All the knowledge to get everything you want and so much more. All you got to do is log in to the show to get information coming to you live from the bunker right here at Studio Money. So stay tuned.